Episode 4, Editing a Google Map. Okay, so in this episode I wanted to show you how you could use Clojurescript and LightTable to interactively edit a Google Map. So the first thing that I did was I showed starting up the auto build with Leiningen. So there's no output, which means no files have changed. It's a bit confusing sometimes because it just sits there doing nothing. Then we start up LightTable. And here I was showing what the version number of LightTable is. It seems to be progressing quite fast, and it's already at version 4.4, and it was only released like 0.4.4 rather, and it was only released like a week ago. So then I show the extends file for Google Maps. Now this is a bit tricky, this one, because Clojure Clojurescript is built on top of Google Clojure. And Google Clojure is the library that comes from Google, which is used to build products such as Gmail and Google+. In fact, most of their public-facing products are made using Google Clojure. And the way Google Clojure works is it's got a lot of type information on top of JavaScript. So if you want to use any API, any JavaScript API, such as the Maps API from Google Clojure, then you have to include these extern files. And in the next part, you can see me looking for these for the extern file for the maps, just to show you where I got it from. But I'm having a difficult time finding it, so I don't think I do find it in the end. But you can see that I keep looking. Anyway, they are available on the internet, so even if I can't find it while I was doing the video. I did find a web page describing externs from Google itself on their Clojure web page. But if you don't know what Google Clojure is, it's worth learning, because Clojurescript is based entirely on it. I think at this point everyone was getting fed up, so I just went back and showed people the file that I downloaded earlier. So these are just like declarations in this file for different parts of the Google Maps API. Okay, so then I showed the HTML page for the Google for the Google Maps page that we're building, and I showed that some of the code is left over from my other episodes, from my other tutorials. And this is the Google Maps code itself, and that's just copied and pasted from one of the Google sites. And this is the code for connecting the browser to LightTable, which is the IDE. So then I get the port and I copy and paste that into the browser. Which the port seems to change every time in LightTable. I don't know why, but it does. I copy and paste the URL for the web page every time, because otherwise I have to go outside of LightTable and get it from a browser. There might be an easier way of doing it, I'm not sure. So here you can see it's loaded the Google map from that, based on that HTML page. If you look at the browser bar, it says main.html, and that's the same main.html that we're editing here. So then I go to the part where we can interactively edit the map, and here's where I start to run into a lot of different problems, but I learned something from it anyway. It takes a while to connect. You can see when I try and evaluate JS map, it takes some time to evaluate that code. But I don't know I'm not sure what LightTable's doing here, but I'm not even sure what the two different dialogues that come up mean, actually. Because when you try and connect the Clojurescript file here, you get two options. So anyway, here you can see the actual internals of the map, which is quite cool, I think. And then I start to show the actual Maps API from Google itself. Some stuff about the API key you see there. If you're using Google Maps, in the latest versions you don't need an API key anymore. In older versions you had to have an API key or you couldn't do anything, and they seem to have relaxed that now for some reason. I guess it just makes it easier to get started. Here in this part I get into here I'm just showing actually some basic commands from the maps. Yeah, and I've run into a problem because I try and define something as a map, and there's two problems here. One is that map is a reserved word in Clojure and Clojurescript, and well, when I say reserved word, it's one of the core functions, map, of course. And the second thing is I need to evaluate the namespace at the top. I think the namespace was also a problem. Anyway, I try a few different things and it doesn't work. So I think at this point a lot of people probably switched off, but if those who stick around will see that we do end up doing something with the map. I even tried reloading the CLJS file. And here I got very confused with this connect to the client again. And now I was very confused here. And I even tried reloading the browser because I thought that was the problem. This is probably the worst way to do a demo in some ways, because I didn't know what was happening. So I think we were learning together here. Anyway, then I finally get to do something interactive. So I get the center of the map, which was one of the Google API, which was part of the Google API. And then I ran into this problem again with define. So yeah, I think it is that when you use LightTable and Clojurescript, you have to evaluate the namespace at the top first. So you can see me struggling here still. And then I try to do the same thing with the map as well. And then I evaluated the namespace when I moved the cursor up, and then it all worked, as you can see. So this part here, this is the namespace that I just highlighted. Then I finally thought of a sensible name, calling it world, not map. I guess I got confused because map was used to name the map in the JavaScript world, and I should probably have renamed it, or called it something else. But anyway. So now I start to try and do something with the map. So I start looking at the API docs from Google, and I have a set center method so that you can move the map to a new coordinate. And that uses the lat_long class. So here I just get the latitude and longitude of the center, because the center, you can see, is defined as a lat_long. And here's one of the nice things you can see here is I have a problem and I don't have to go through like recompiling everything again. I just immediately look at the doc, come back, and I get the result. And then I make a new latitude longitude object. And here I run into another problem, because a lot of the objects in the Google API need you to fully qualify the namespace, which you can't see in all parts of the Google documentation. So here I'm wondering why I can't make the latitude longitude object. And then I start reloading the CLJS file, because I think that's a problem. when in fact most of the time the problem was just myself, that I didn't know how to use it. I don't know why I closed the browser at this point. I think I just pressed the wrong key or something. Okay, so you can see I'm evaluating everything again. Still the latitude longitude doesn't work. So then I go up a bit, and then you can see this google.maps.lat long. So you have to include the whole namespace for this to work. So you can see here, I change to that, and it magically works now. So now I'll try and move the maps. So I'm trying to do something interactive now. Yes, and the map moved. I hope you saw that. And then I start thinking about how I can maybe pan the map or move it smoothly. And so I do something which doesn't work, which is trying to call set center twice. And that doesn't work for many reasons, which I won't go into right now, but it doesn't work anyway. So I set two different coordinates on the map, and then I say to the map, go to one coordinate, then go to the other. But of course it only goes to one of the coordinates. And then I get a little bit confused thinking about it. But I soon realised that you can't do that, so then you can see here I skip between the two coordinates. Then I start to look at the map class from Google to see what else we can do with it. And then I find this magical function pan to, which lets you scroll more smoothly from one place to the other. And here's one of the cool things, doing things interactively. Then I try panning to another point on the map, but this point's a lot further away. And then you see the panning doesn't act smoothly anymore. So you can get immediate feedback on this, in that you realise that, okay, if I'm going to pan, I have to do it over a small distance with Google Maps. So you can see here I keep reducing the distance. Still not doing it smoothly. Maybe there is a way of doing it, but that's something I'll have to play around with the API. There, now it's doing it more smoothly. Then I try to see what else I can do with the map that's quite simple. I suppose I could always keep the documentation for the Google API within LightTable as well, since it has its own browser anyway, which is based on Google Chrome, by the way, on Google Chrome and Node.js, I think. So then I try and tilt the world, but it doesn't do anything, and I think it might need some sort of three-dimensional mode for that. But then I try the zoom, and that works. And this is pretty much the end of the tutorial now. So yeah, I hope this gave you a good overview of Clojurescript and interactive editing with Google Maps. And the IDE, of course, is LightTable. Amazing, I have to say. And that's it for this week. And thanks. Bye.